The night wind rolls down off the mesa like an old song, soft, low, and full of ghosts. Sometimes I sit out here by the fire, listening to the coyotes call each other across the valley, and I swear I still hear her voice between their cries. Nora. That name used to mean shame to half the folks in Dry Creek. To me, it means mercy. It means life itself. I wasn't much of a man the day I met her. Just a broken fool holding a baby that wouldn't cry no more. The sun was high, and the dust off the street burned my lungs. My boots near fell apart. Folks scattered when they saw me coming. Maybe they thought grief was catching. Maybe they were right. I'd lost my wife to a fever 3 days before. By the time the undertaker closed the box, my little girl was slipping away too. Wouldn't drink, wouldn't breathe right. I begged every woman in town to help. Each one turned their eyes or their backs. Then there she was, standing outside the bakery with flour on her hands, broad shoulders, soft eyes, a body the town mocked behind her back. They called her the heavy widow, said her husband drank himself dead 'cause of her looks. I didn't care. I just saw a woman with milk on her apron and a tremble in her lip when she heard the baby's gasp. I remember saying please just once. She's all I got left. The words came out like gravel. Nora didn't speak. She took the baby from my arms and held her to her chest. The world went quiet. Even the horses stopped fussing. And when that little one drew her first deep breath and cried, it was like thunder in my chest, loud and holy. I never forgot that sound. Afterward, Nora handed her back gentle, eyes shiny with tears she wouldn't let fall. She turned to go inside, but I caught her sleeve. "You saved her," I said. She shook her head. "No, sir. She saved me." I didn't understand then. Took me years to know what she meant. The town didn't like it none. Me visiting her bakery, asking her to help at the ranch. They said a man ought not be seen with a woman like her. But I was done listening to folks who only knew how to whisper and judge. She done what no one else had the heart to do. That night, after burying my wife, I came back to thank her. She sat by a lamp, mending a baby blanket, humming to herself. I asked if she'd come stay at the ranch a while, just till my girl got stronger. She hesitated, said people would talk. I told her they already do. That made her laugh. First real laugh I'd heard in months. Sounded like the start of rain on dry earth, so she came. I remember her stepping off of that wagon, hat pulled low, carrying a basket of herbs and bread. She looked around the ranch like it was a test she meant to pass, and maybe it was. The house hadn't known a woman's touch in years. She scrubbed the floors, fed the chickens, sang to the baby. By sundown, the place smelled like soap and fresh bread instead of whiskey and regret. I sat on the porch that night, watching her through the open door. She didn't see me, thank God. My heart was beating too hard, like it wasn't sure what it was doing. I told myself it was gratitude, nothing more. But the desert knows better. It holds your secrets, keeps them warm in the sand till the wind's ready to tell them again. And sometimes when the coyotes start their song, I swear I hear the baby's cry blending with Nora's hum, carrying across the years, reminding me how love don't always arrive pretty or planned. It stumbles in, dusty and desperate, begging for one more chance. If you've ever held something fragile in your hands and prayed the world would give you mercy, you'll understand. They say memory softens with time, but some don't. Some stay sharp as a spur, digging into you every time the wind shifts. It's been near 30 years since that spring, but I still see her standing there in my doorway, a bit of sunlight spilling past her shoulder, dust hanging in the air like gold. My little girl was sleeping on her chest, a smile small as dawn. That was the first peace I'd known since the fever took Mary. Nora had a quiet way about her. She didn't talk much, but when she did, it was plain and kind. She'd hum while she worked, little tunes with no name, just sounds that made a house feel like home again. I remember watching her patch my shirt one evening, thread between her fingers, eyes half closed, humming that same tune. And I caught myself thinking how her hands moved like they'd known love once, real love, the kind that leaves a mark deeper than a scar. Still, the town didn't stop talking. Dry Creek had a mean tongue. Men would tip their hats to her in daylight and laugh about her size after dark. Women crossed the street when she walked by. I tried to ignore it. I'd been raised to fight back, but Nora, she just kept on living, quiet as the moon. One Sunday after service, a ranch hand of mine, new boy, cocky, made a crack about the big lady nursing my baby. I don't rightly recall drawing my gun, but I remember the sound it made when I cocked it. The church steps went silent. Nora's voice broke through that silence, calm, trembling just a bit. "Thomas," she said, "put it down." I did, but my hands were shaking. Later that day, I told her I didn't regret defending her. She smiled that soft, sad way she had and said, "Ain't no need to fight folks who already lost their hearts." She was right, of course, but it burned me all the same. We found our rhythm out there. She baked, I rode fence, the baby grew strong. We'd meet on the porch come sundown, share coffee and quiet. Sometimes her hand'd brush mine, and it felt like something dangerous, like lightning looking for ground. I tried to keep my distance, told myself she deserved better than a man still mourning. But one night, the rain came sudden, drenching the roof, and the baby started crying. Nora went to soothe her, singing under her breath, and I stood in the doorway just listening. When she looked up, the lamplight caught her face, tired, gentle, beautiful in a way I'd been too blind to see. That's when I knew I wasn't mourning anymore. I was falling. She must have seen it too, 'cause she turned away fast, said we couldn't, said folks already thought the worst. I told her the worst already happened when my wife died, and nothing the town said could hurt worse than burying her. But Nora, she was stubborn about her shame, said she'd been called names her whole life, and she wasn't strong enough to bring that on me and my girl. I didn't push. A man learns, sometimes, that love ain't about taking. Days passed like tumbleweeds. Then one morning, I came back from town to find two men by the gate, drifters with whiskey breath laughing loud. One of 'em made a joke I won't repeat, and I saw red. Nora stepped between us before I could draw. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Don't let your anger teach your child what love looks like." That cut deep, 'cause I'd been that man once, angry, wild, proud. That night, after the men rode off, I sat by the crib and watched my daughter breathe. The storm outside had quieted, but inside me, it was just starting. I knew I'd lose Nora if I didn't find peace with the past, and maybe that's what love truly asks. Not passion, not possession, but peace. I fell asleep in that chair, my hand on my little girl's blanket. When I woke, the fire was low, and Nora had left a cup of coffee beside me. A note, too, one line, written neat and plain. You can't heal if you keep fighting ghosts. She was right again. Damn woman was always right. If you've ever looked at someone and seen the piece of yourself you'd been missing, you'll understand. The past don't ride alone. It drags a trail of dust behind it, long and heavy, until one day it catches your scent again. It was early summer when mine came riding back. The desert had gone gold, and the air smelled like rain that never quite came. I'd gone into Dry Creek to settle a feed bill, left Nora and the baby at the ranch. She'd been humming when I rode off. That sound stayed in my ears the whole trip. By the time I got to town, whispers were already stirring. Ain't nothing travels faster than spite. They said Nora was living as my wife without the Lord's blessing. Said I gone soft, letting a heavy woman play mother under my roof. I told the storekeeper I didn't give a damn what they thought, but I saw the smirk behind his eyes. The ride home was long. Every hoofbeat sounded like accusation. When I reached the gate, the baby was crying. Nora was standing on the porch, arms tied around her jaw set. 2 men on horseback waited in the yard, same drifters as before. The smell of liquor was thick enough to choke on. One of them spit in the dirt. Didn't know the sheriff's house turned into a boarding place for big gals and bastards, he said. I didn't even remember drawing. The sound of that hammer cocking broke the air in half. Nora screamed, "Thomas, no!" But I wasn't listening. One of the men reached for his belt, and the gun went off. Just once. The echo rolled down the valley like thunder that forgot how to die. When the smoke cleared, the drifters were gone. The gate hung open. Nora was crying, clutching the baby to her chest. I stood there, deaf with fury, shaking so bad I could barely holster my iron. That night, she wouldn't look at me, didn't speak through supper, didn't hum. The silence hurt worse than any bullet. I tried explaining. Said I only meant to scare him. She said that kind of fear don't end with a warning. It ends with blood. We didn't talk again for 3 days. Then came Sunday. The preacher stood at the pulpit, shouting about sin and shame, and every pair of eyes turned our way. I felt them burning holes clean through me. After the service, the wives cornered Nora near the steps, talking sweet but cutting deep. I saw her shrink under it, shoulders bowing like the world got heavy all at once. That's when something in me snapped, not wild like before, but clear. I took my hat off, stood by her side, and said loud enough for the whole damn town to hear, "This woman saved my child's life. I won't stand by while you shame her for it. You don't have to like her, but you will respect her." No one breathed. Even the preacher's wife flinched. Nora's eyes filled, and for a second I thought she'd cry, but she didn't. She just stood taller, nodded once, and walked straight past every one of them, chin high. That night, she sat beside me on the porch, hands folded in her lap. The stars were bright enough to hurt. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yeah," I said, "I did." She looked at me long and quiet, then said, "You can't fight the whole world, Thomas." I told her, "Don't need to. Just gotta stand up when the world picks the wrong target." She laughed, a tired, lovely sound that carried clean across the prairie. Then she leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat like that for a while. Wind in the cottonwoods, baby sleeping inside, peace hanging between us fragile as glass. But peace don't last long in the West. 2 nights later, the sheriff rode out. Said the drifters filed a complaint. Said one was grazed by my bullet. Could have hung me if Nora hadn't stepped forward telling the truth. Said they broke in. Threatened the child. Her voice was steady as iron. The sheriff backed down, but after he left, Nora turned to me and said, "We can't stay like this. Folks won't stop talking till they see it done proper." "You mean marriage?" I asked. She nodded. I laughed, not 'cause it was funny, but 'cause I'd been waiting to hear her say it. That night, we packed a small trunk. She wore a blue dress I'd never seen before. I carried my hat and my heart in the same hand. If you've ever stood on the edge of losing and found something worth keeping, you'll understand. We got married on the courthouse steps, right under the noon sun. No flowers, no preacher's blessing, just the sheriff, 2 witnesses, and the baby sucking her thumb. The town watched from across the street, curious, cold, and quiet. Nora's hands trembled when I slid the ring on. Mine did too. Not from doubt. From knowing it meant something the rest of the world didn't think we deserved. When the sheriff said, "You may kiss your bride," I did. And Lord help me, it felt like I'd been waiting my whole life to do it. The crowd didn't clap, didn't speak, but when we walked back down those steps, Nora held her head high. The sunlight caught the tears on her cheeks, and she looked like every strong thing God ever made. The earth, the sky, and the mercy in between. That was the day we rode home together, husband and wife. She sat behind me on the wagon bench, baby in her lap, wind tugging at her bonnet. We didn't talk much, didn't need to. The sound of the wheels on dirt said enough. At the ranch, the place looked new. Not 'cause anything changed, just 'cause love had touched it. The chicken scratched lazy near the fence. The dog wagged his tail like he knew a secret. Even the porch boards creaked softer. That night, we ate by lantern light. Stew, cornbread, and silence that wasn't empty anymore. When the baby fell asleep, Nora leaned back in her chair and said, "You think they'll ever forgive us?" I told her, "Ain't ours to fix what's broken in their hearts, long as we keep ours right." She smiled, tired but easy. "Then we'll be just fine." And for a while, we were. Days fell into rhythm. Fence work, baking, feeding, singing. The baby grew sturdy, eyes bright as spring water. Nora laughed more. She'd hum to the horses, talk to the garden like it could hear her. I'd sit sometimes watching her hang laundry in the wind and think how the desert finally found its bloom. But peace in the West is like rain, never promised, never stays long. Late one evening, smoke rose on the far ridge. A barn caught fire. Mine. By the time I reached it, flames were chewing through the roof, and Nora was there already, hauling buckets, coughing in the heat. I yelled for her to stay back. She didn't. We got the horses out. But the hay was gone, and part of the wall gave way. When it was over, we stood there covered in soot, holding each other, watching the ashes fall. I cursed the Lord that night. She just whispered, we'll build again. And we did, board by board, hand by hand. Neighbors came, the same ones who judged us, bringing nails, planks, food, maybe pity, maybe guilt. Didn't matter. Nora thanked every one of them, never letting bitterness touch her tongue. I asked her how she could forgive so easy. She said, "Hate's heavy, Thomas. I carried enough of it once, ain't got room for more." I reckon that's when I knew she was the better half of me. Not the softer half, the stronger one. When the barn stood again, she carved something in one of the beams. I didn't notice till weeks later. The letters were small, but the words near broke me. Home is what love rebuilds. Years passed. The town changed. Some folks moved on, some stayed and learned to smile when they saw us. The baby grew into a woman, kind, steady, the image of her mother in every way that mattered. Sometimes, when I'd ride the fence alone, I'd catch sight of Nora on the porch, waving from the shade, and in that moment, every wrong thing I'd ever done felt lighter. Love don't erase your sins. It just gives you a place to lay 'em down. If you've ever lost everything and found one soul who made you believe again, you'll understand. The years roll by quiet out here, like tumbleweed across an empty road. The house don't echo no more. It hums. She filled it with so much living. It still feels warm even when she ain't here. Nora's been gone near 5 winters now. Buried her up on the hill behind the cottonwoods where the sunrise touches first. I built her a white fence and planted wildflowers, though the wind keeps stealing them away. She used to laugh about that. Said beauty don't belong to any one man. It just passes through. Most nights I sit by the fire and listen to the wind whistle through the chimney stones. The baby, our little girl, she's got her own family now. Comes visiting with her boys, all noise and boots and laughter. They call me Grandpa Tom, run through the fields like the world's still brand new. I tell 'em stories sometimes, not the gunfight kind, not the outlaw kind, the quiet ones, the ones about mercy and bread warm from the oven and a woman who taught me to breathe again. They ask if Grandma Nora was pretty. I tell 'em she was more than that. She was good, and goodness lasts longer than beauty ever could. When they're asleep, I walk out to the porch. The moon lays silver over the desert, and I swear I can see her shadow in it, broad, gentle, moving slow like she's still hanging laundry in the wind. Sometimes, if I listen hard enough, I hear her hum. That same tune from the bakery all them years ago. The town remembers us different now. They tell the story of the widow who nursed the sheriff's baby and became his wife. Sounds simple when they say it that way, but the truth lives deeper than words. It lived in every meal she cooked, every wound she patched, every kindness she gave to folks who once turned their backs. Once a young man stopped me outside the general store, said he'd heard about Nora and wanted to know how a man keeps love that strong. I told him, "You don't keep it, son. You just live good enough it wants to stay." He looked puzzled, but maybe one day he'll learn. We all do if we're lucky. The nights get colder now. Bones ache, coffee cools quicker, and the fire burns lower than it used to. But I ain't lonely. Not really. I can still feel her hand in mine when the wind moves just right. Still hear her whisper when I get angry at the world. "Let it go, Thomas. The fight's over." Sometimes I argue back, just for the comfort of pretending she's near. "Maybe it ain't over yet," I tell her, and the wind answers, soft and sweet like she's laughing at me again. Every spring, I ride out to the ridge where the grass grows high, sit by her grave with a thermos of coffee and a slice of cornbread she taught me to make. I talk for a while, about the ranch, the kids, the weather, nothing special. Then I just listen. That's how you learn what love really is. Not the fire, not the rush, not even the kiss on the courthouse steps. It's the quiet after, all the days that follow, when two souls learn to live gentle with what life gave them. Sometimes I end my story this way when folks ask. She saved my child once, but truth is, she saved me too. The desert wind carries that truth farther than I ever could, and maybe that's enough. If you've ever sat alone under a wide western sky and missed someone till it hurt, you'll understand. And maybe love ain't about holding on. It's about learning to let go gentle.